Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, my name is Orlagh, and today I thought I would talk a little bit about, is Madrid vegan friendly? So this is a question, oh itchy nose, apologies. This is a question I get asked quite a lot over on Instagram, people either coming to visit Madrid or thinking about moving here, and they want to know if there are vegan options. So I thought today I'd do a little video answering some of those questions. So if you've never seen any of my videos before, I've also got two other videos I think at this point about Madrid. Pros and cons of living here, the cost of living, and then Madrid versus Barcelona. So I've done 3 Madrid related videos which I'll put up in the cards here and pop them up wherever they pop up. So I've lived in Madrid for 6 years at this point, and I've been vegan for about 3.5, nearly 4 of those years. So in that short space of time I've already seen a lot of options increase and a lot more vegan restaurants open. But I'm going to split this video into 4 parts, starting with part number 1, the vegan restaurants. Okay, so like I said, in the last couple of years of me living here, vegan restaurants and plant-based places have just skyrocketed. There are so many ones in Madrid. Nearly every week or couple of weeks another one opens. So it's amazing, and to be honest, I nearly always, I wouldn't say I exclusively go to vegan restaurants, but 9 times out of 10 if I'm going out to eat, I will choose to go somewhere that's exclusively vegan. Want to support that business because obviously, you know, small businesses have a bit of a difficult time at the best of times, especially kind of pandemic era. So I like to go and support them as opposed to like restaurants that are obviously very meat based. In the same way I like to support smaller independent businesses over big chains. But actually Spain in general is very focused towards the independent business. It's not really like the UK where on the high street there's always going to be, you know, a Nando's and a Pizza Hut and Ask Italian and all of the main chains. Ask Italian, that's a really specific one I don't think I've ever been to. Don't know why it popped into my head. But my point is that most of the places are independent anyway, so it's great to go and support them. I actually have so many favourites, it will be impossible to talk about them all in this video. So I'm going to put a link down in the description box to my Google Maps of my favourite vegan places in Madrid. So whether you're coming here for a quick visit, whether you're coming here to stay potentially and live here, hopefully that will come in useful. So I'll be able to list all of my favourite places to grab a quick bite to eat, or restaurants, or my favourite, which would be like cafes and sort of bakeries and places like that. So whether or not it's a vegan place exclusively or just has vegan options, I'll collaborate a big list and hopefully that'll help you out. There are so many. You can get something from, you know, something really nutritious like a place that does smoothie bowls and kind of breakfasty stuff, all the way up to vegan junk food. There's also quite a few vegan restaurants which are kind of more like kind of classic sit down restaurants where they're not kind of like a hipster cafe where you can go for like an anniversary or a nice occasion. So I'll make sure to link all of those down below. But as I said before, I do tend to go to those exclusively vegan places over the other ones. But I am of the opinion that if you support a restaurant that is a meat restaurant that has a vegan option, you know, you are showing that there's a demand for that dish. Obviously we do live in a kind of supply and demand capitalism society, so we do need to make sure we are supporting those vegan options because that's the best way to make sure they get put on the menus and become widespread. Vegan options in traditional restaurants. If you're not familiar with Spanish cuisine, it is quite meat heavy, I would say. I think if you think of Spanish food, you automatically think of like seafood or chorizo and jamon, like jamon iberico, you know, the like Spanish hams and things like that. So there is like suckling pig and there is a lot of meat and cheese in their traditional dishes. So I have found the options are increasing in these restaurants. Nearly always I'll have a vegetarian option, but obviously that ends up being cheese or egg based most of the time. And there have been a couple of cases where I've ordered like a vegetable soup, for example, to be told like it's vegan, it's just vegetables with vegetable stock, and then when it arrives there's little bits of ham on top and stuff like that. So those things do happen in some of the really traditional restaurants, but I do think it is changing and people are getting more aware of what veganism is, which is great. In a lot of these traditional restaurants though, you do find problems if you're ordering tapas. So if you don't know what tapas is, a tapa is basically Spanish for like a small snack or a small plate. So tapas is when you go to a restaurant with a bunch of friends or family and you order a lot of different plates to share for the table. And sometimes I found if I'm the only vegan and I'm in a traditional restaurant, what tends to happen is we order, say, I don't know, 5 or 6 dishes for the table, and if I can only eat one of them, like the padron peppers for example, or the salad, obviously then you're really limited and you end up being hungry whilst everyone else is eating all of the other dishes. So that can be a little bit of a problem in the traditional restaurants, but they are improving. Something if you're thinking of moving to Madrid and you're traveling around smaller pueblos, or villages or towns, is often they'll have not even a vegetarian option on the menu, let alone a vegan one. But if you're really stuck, nearly always you can at least get like some patatas bravas, like the potatoes. You just need to make sure that they don't use beef stock in their sauce. But you could just ask for regular chips and like a side salad, which isn't great, but obviously if you're stuck in a situation where you need to go to one of these restaurants, you can nearly always sort of cobble together something from the side dishes. Editing me here. Just to add as well, of course there are other restaurants like Italian restaurants and Asian restaurants where you can find vegan options that are available. I just thought I would focus more on the traditional Spanish restaurants, but there are other options on menus that I've seen around, so nearly always you will be able to find something. Okay, part 3, vegan options in supermarkets. So if you're not familiar with Madrid, the main supermarkets we have here are Mercadona and Dia, which are both Spanish-owned supermarkets. We also have Carrefour, which is French, I believe, and Lidl and Aldi. And then there's a few others. Alcampo is another one that I never go to because there's not one near me. So the vegan options and the things they supply do definitely depend on which chain you go to. And there's also obviously a load of independent vegan shops. Again, I'll put them in the Google Maps thing down below, like Planet Vegana, and there's another one called Tienda Vegana or something, I can't quite remember. So you can find vegan options in supermarkets. I would say, again, I'm comparing to the UK because that's where I'm from and that's where I go back to visit when I go home and stuff. The options are not as vast and they do tend to be more expensive compared to their counterparts. I feel like now in the UK we're at a stage where you can buy vegan bacon and it's around the same price as a pack of like pork bacon. Whereas here we're definitely not at that point yet. Like, you do have to pay a premium for vegan food, which is a shame. Obviously I do think that maybe it's because we're a few steps behind here and hopefully we'll catch up to the UK and other countries that are a bit more forward thinking with veganism, because I do think accessibility obviously is really important with the price point. And some of these exclusively vegan shops, you know, you go in and you come out and you've spent 40 euros on like, I don't know, 6 items, you know, so it's not affordable for most people. And I would say a lot of the meat substitutes are more like a treat because of that. And I think hopefully when the prices go down, people who typically have like a meat heavy diet are going to want to try those alternatives maybe out of curiosity and end up realising they're actually really good and hopefully make some kind of more ethical, sustainable, healthier choices. So that's one thing to consider with the price. But in terms of selection, you know, there's also a lot of Asian supermarkets where you can get things like, you know, tofu and big things of beans and legumes and things like that, which are less expensive than other supermarkets, which is great. There's actually a really good Asian supermarket. Again, I'll put it in the Google map. This Google Maps thing is going to be like yay long. I just imagined like a scroll then, a digital scroll. Well, you can scroll through the list. And they have really good stuff, like lots of like tempeh and tofu, vegetable dumplings, and really like delicious food there if you're into kind of Chinese and Japanese food, so that's great. But I would say it definitely depends on how big the supermarket is near you. If you're going to like a small, like the equivalent of like a Tesco Express, like a small supermarket, they're not really going to have a huge selection. The bigger stores do, and even now, for example, I know Carrefour and Dia, they have their own version of the Beyond Meat burgers and things like that. And there's a great brand here, it's a Spanish brand called Yura, which does things like vegan chicken, vegan kind of beef burgers. So there is a big selection, and again, you know, you can find them on promotion and things like that. So they do exist, but maybe they could be a little bit more expensive than what you're used to. Just depends where you're coming from and the budget of the place you live in. But don't worry, you can definitely nearly always find like oat milk, almond milk, soy milk in nearly every coffee shop. Even in like the kind of old man bars now, you'll at least find soya. Maybe you're not going to find like the other ones, but just be careful, because a few times I've asked for a vegan milk and they've said, do I want lactose free milk? And it's like, That's not the point. But as I said, they were like really traditional kind of older bars, and you know, maybe people in the UK would still make that kind of mistake. So there are options available. You do need to maybe look a little bit harder in some cases, but Lidl and Aldi have great vegan ranges too. And actually the other day from Aldi I bought their bourbon vanilla ice cream, and it was delicious. So yes, you can find bits and pieces like that, no problem. And finally, for part 4, I thought it would be a little bit interesting to talk about kind of cultural attitudes to veganism in Spain, considering the kind of traditional cuisine. I found in general, anyone I've spoken to has been really curious about it, open about it. Obviously there are vegans in Spain too, obviously, so I find that people aren't that judgmental necessarily. I have had some people, because again, like jamon is such a big thing here, who kind of say to me like, oh, but you can eat jamon, right? As if like it's not somehow from a pig. But again, you know, I've had similar situations in the UK where someone said to me, oh, you're vegan but you can still eat tuna. Like, so I don't think that's like a specific thing to hear. I think it's just about educating people about kind of what veganism is, and you know, it kind of relates to a wider problem around food education in general. So yeah, people have been very accepting. You know, if you go into restaurants, you know, it depends on the service I guess, but a lot of the times they're willing to adapt menu items to fit you if you want to take. The only thing I would say is there's been a lot of times here where I've asked to, for example, swap the cheese in a dish for hummus or something else, and they'll remove the cheese from the dish but then charge you for the hummus. Again, I don't know if this is a specific thing to here, but in the UK nearly always they wouldn't charge you for that swap unless it was, you know, you wanted to minus lettuce and get bacon, then of course they're going to charge you for that. But kind of swapping something of equal value here I found doesn't always work, but again, that might just be the service of that particular place. But in general, I found people to be open, accepting, curious, they ask questions, and nearly any time I talk about veganism, unless it's in one of these videos or over on my Instagram, it's because somebody's asked me a question about it and they're curious. So I think that's great that, you know, they have that kind of open mind to talk about it a little bit and see what veganism is all about. So yeah, I hope you found this video interesting and helpful. Let me know if you've got any questions in the comments box down below. Check out the Google map thing, document, scroll, whatever I called it before. And if you want to go and follow me over on Instagram, I'll put my @ here, and I post about vegan places in Madrid and like little videos about places I go to and stuff like that. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Enjoy the rest of your day. You've been you, I've been me, and I hope to see you again around these parts soon. Thank you, bye.